Coming up on show 743, an octuple of Tesla news. Yes, it is actually a thing. Stick around, I'll tell you more. Plus, we're talking big awards for the Porsche Taycan, the Kia Soul EV. Electric vehicle charging is going off-grid. The Volvo car that has just cancelled the petrol and diesel versions in favour of electricity. And Renault preparing a new SUV electric vehicle. Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're listening in the world. Welcome to EV News Daily. My name is Martyn Lee. I go through every EV story that I can find, so you don't have to. Here's the edition for what happened on Thursday, 9th of April. So, an octuple of Tesla news today. Yes, I did have to Google that, and I Googled it by typing double, triple, quadruple, what comes at 8? And I found the answer. There's 8 stories to do with Tesla today, and I was going to, pick and choose a couple because I hate making this podcast about any one manufacturer in particular. I like it to always be a nice depth and breadth of EV stories and a bit of energy and sustainability. I don't like to favour one automaker over another. However, there are days like today when I genuinely found, either through Twitter or things that I'd been looking at, quite a lot about one individual car maker. And so let me get through 8 bits of Tesla news first, but I promise I'll be quick. Well, the first one is the Tesla Model Y, and I've been watching the Sandy Munro teardown video in his workshop. He's been pulling it apart, and he's finally got to, all the seats are out, the carpets are out, and he's finally got to the bit where he was getting to the rear end of the car. Now, you may remember that we talked on this podcast many times about how the Model Y was going to be a simpler car to make than the Model 3, largely due to large pieces of casting. Well, he's now given us the best glimpse so far of those cast parts at the back end of the car. That is the large cast bracket that joins 2 other big castings together, which basically forms the back end of the car. They're welded and bolted into position, according to Sandy Munro, and he also wonders if some of the technology in the Y will be adopted by the Model 3. He mentions in his latest video, by the way, if you're looking at the Munro Live YouTube channel right now, it's video 14 that I've just been watching. He does mention a note from Tesla where they call what they call running improvements. So this is something that actually, when they discover a better way to do something, they'll stop the production line, and then every car made after that improvement then has the new way of doing things. And so they're talking about running improvements to the Model Y, but Sandy Munro asks, can they do running improvements to the Model 3? Because at the back of the car, when you take the carpets out, when you take the seats out, there is basically in the back, in the boot, a big plastic, it's probably a special form of plastic, it's basically a big black plastic bucket that sits in the boot, is bolted down into the metal frame as well. And that's the bit that if you have rear-facing seats in the Model Y, your feet would sit in, and also you can put your storage stuff in there as well. If you lift up the cover in the boot, there's that extra storage bin further down. That has been from the Model 3 when he tore it apart and said it had like 80 different bits and bolts and nuts and screws and welds and various bits to make that back end of the car happen. Everything basically apart from the rear bumper that bolts onto it all. It's now like 3 or 4. And he was really impressed with that, and he would love them to take the rear end of the Model Y and do the Model 3 that way. And I do come back to this stat that I keep reading all the time, that the Model Y and the Model 3 would be share 75% of the same parts. Now, I have never heard that from Tesla since that one time it was said. But watching these Sandy Munro videos of the Model Y being torn apart, where the 5 seats are the same, steering wheel's the same, screen is the same. He keeps saying, that's different, they've improved that, that's different, that's different, that's different. Now, I will add, he is comparing it to a very, very early Model 3. So I'm not saying that he has bought himself a 3 and a Y on the same day. So, because of the way that Tesla do things, and are always improving their cars, there is no doubt, it's a fact that the Tesla Model 3 he bought, one of the first ones that came off the production line, is going to be vastly different to the 3s they're making now. But anyway, I don't believe that 75% figure anymore. The Y is so different to the 3 when you start to rip it apart. Okay, I can recommend watching those videos if you are interested. Tesla has set a date for resuming operations at Fremont. According to an email sent to employees, the company will resume production at Fremont, California, on the 4th of May. That is the current plan according to the response to coronavirus. According to CNBC, they claim they've seen this email that was sent to every member of staff, so I'm sure it wouldn't be too easy for one staff member to possibly pass that on to CNBC. If this is true, this is what the email says, and I quote, "While we are continuing to keep only minimum critical operations running, we expect to resume normal production at our US facilities on May the 4th, barring any significant changes. Until that time, it's important we take action to ensure that we remain on track to achieve our long-term plans. Starting Monday, April 13th. We're implementing the actions below as part of a broader effort to manage costs, and this includes a shared salary sacrifice across the company. So full-time employees earning a little bit less at Tesla until normal operations resume. Temporarily being reduced for vice presidents, 30%, directors 20%, and all other staff 10%. Pop a link to CNBC in the show notes if you want to read the full email yourself. In April, we should have been getting Tesla Battery Day. I talked about this recently on our Sunday Night Live YouTube show that I do. It's not an EV News Daily thing, but I am one of the 3 hosts of the show. It's called EV Lounge Live. It's 7 p.m. UK time, so 2 p.m. Eastern on YouTube every Sunday night. We take viewer questions and we have a discussion topics for about 45 minutes around electric vehicles. If you fancy catching up during this stay at home, a bit stir crazy, being part of the community, you're more than welcome to watch that and interact, and we'd love to hear from you. I was talking about this on the show recently, how the Tesla Battery Day cannot be happening in April. We've heard nothing about it, but it cannot be happening amidst all of this crisis. It would seem so incongruous to the more serious news that's going on. And Tesla always wants to do things the right way, maximum publicity, maximum attention, but also being respectful to the fact that they'll be doing a big announcement that we're all meant to kind of coo over, and there's staff being laid off, contractors and stuff. So I'm not surprised to see this news today. Those who've been waiting for Battery Day will be waiting a little bit longer. Elon did tweet that the event would be now held in mid-May. Most likely mid-May, a month after the intended date. Hard to predict dates right now. He says most likely postponed to mid-May, and a response to a person on Twitter who was asking about that. Teslarati says that Tesla's Battery Day will outline the company's plans for battery development for future vehicles and energy solutions. Musk stated the event would be geared towards the review of the cell chemistry that Tesla is working on, the module and pack and architecture design, and the company's manufacturing plan that will detail how it is going to reach a terawatt-hour per year of battery production. Bearing in mind they're mid-20s right now, and they've got to get to 1,000? This is how they're going to do it. That's the plan. And so if you are interested as much as I am in that, date for your diary, mid-May. The Tesla Model Y is, in my mind, the car that I would have over the Model 3. Simply because it's the old thing about buying a computer, right? The minute you buy a computer, it's out of date. Okay, so the minute I would buy a Model Y, it would be out of date because Tesla would have improved the cars coming off the production line. So I get it. I get what I'm saying. But the Model Y just has all these tiny little things that are a fraction of a percent better than the Model 3, that if I were to spend my own hard-earned money on a car, and I can't afford a Model Y, then I'd go and lay down the cash for that. However, if you are thinking I'd like a Model Y as well and I'm in Europe, when can I get one? Next year is the answer. Q2 2021, according to a tweet from Elon. A chap called Milo tweeted him about, a few hours ago. What does this say? 9 hours ago on my Twitter, as of recording this podcast. When will you deliver the Model Y to Switzerland? Elon replied, in about 1 year. It will come from Giga Berlin. Yeah, we've seen that before from Elon, him saying that shipping cars around the world is suboptimal, doesn't want to be doing it, doesn't want to make cars in California or even China and shipping them to Europe. He wants Gigafactory Berlin to be making all the cars in Europe that we drive. We know Model Y will be the first one to come out of Giga Berlin, and now we know that he thinks it's about a year. So add a bit of Elon time. I say that, but they were ahead of time with Model Y. But just say it's a year away. That's going to be Q2 2021. And let's hope they do some right-hand drive runs as well, so the UK can get a few of those Model Ys. You never know. In a year's time, EV News Daily may have taken off. This time next year, Rodney, we'll be millionaires. Maybe I'll buy one. Let's talk about Tesla in China. Tesla sold, I told you, an octuple of stories. Bear with me, non-Tesla fans. Tesla sold over 10,000 vehicles in China in March. 10,160 is the number I got hold of today. Highest ever monthly sales in the world's largest auto market, according to the CPCA. That is the China Passenger Car Association. According to the Reuters report that came out just a couple of hours ago, Tesla is aiming to make 150,000 Model 3s every single year at the $2 billion Shanghai factory. The total figures for Tesla was 30% of the Chinese EV market last month. CPCA Secretary General said they sold 3,900 in Feb, 2,600 in Jan, and like I say, in March, that's gone from 2.6 to 3.9 to 10,160. They're ramping up pretty quickly at Tesla Giga Shanghai. Let's make sure I call it the right thing. Let's talk about Dyno mode, a thing that you should never, ever, ever have been using anyway. Whenever I talked about it, not just because I don't want to be sued, but also because it's a sensible disclaimer to give. If you had a Tesla, don't use Dyno mode, because what it does, well, you know what, I'll let InsideEVs writer Kyle explain. Tesla's actually just sent a new over-the-air update to update Dyno mode, and I'm pleased to say it limits the performance, so you can't use it on the roads. He says the Dyno mode was recently discovered by Tesla owners through an EPA finding that made it public. It's a hidden feature that means that drivers could disable all electronic driver aids. So, traction control, stability control, automatic emergency braking. The point of doing it was that when you strap a car down onto a dyno, you just got a pure performance figure with none of the clever, intelligent stuff kicking in the electronics. Through a series of secret steps, drivers could disable all of those safety nannies and have full control over the vehicle. Now, if you are in a safe area, if you're on a track, if you know how to handle a fast car and you know how to apply the throttle and the steering and speed appropriate driving, even in a private area, there was nothing wrong with this. But as we quickly saw, thanks to the wonders of the internet and YouTube videos, people immediately tried it on roads and did things like hit lampposts and go into ditches and drive through hedges. There's a whole theme on YouTube of people trying dyno mode in their Tesla, and it just spins out because they don't know how to control the car. So, starting with the software update, 2020.8.1, they have now limited dyno mode. If it accelerates even slower than chill mode, it's effectively useless for being a boy racer on the road. A shame for the track enthusiasts that use it, but probably better for the general majority of people. Check out Kyle's YouTube channel. It's called Out of Spec Motoring on YouTube. He makes some fantastic videos, by the way. Did a drone one of him on he's a fantastic track driver, and got one of his buddies who's a great drone pilot to follow him around. And it's super cool in his Model 3 on the track. The Cybertruck from Tesla, I'm still going, by the way. Octuple of news. Tesla's Cybertruck, the average transaction price is going to be over $60,000. The website cybertrucktalk.com, it's a forum. They polled 1,800 of their members, so we are going on trust here. We are asking 1,800 people who say they have reservations. 1,800 of the 600,000 reservation holders for Cybertruck. So we take them on their word that they are. They reported back their specs they've ordered. Those ordering single motor have spent $44,000. The base price is $39,900. Those ordering dual motor cars, the average price they've spent is $54,000. Base price $49,000. And the tri-motor, the average transaction price, I should say, that people have done is $75,000, and the base price $69,000. So the average price of a Cybertruck is $62,554. It's the average transaction price over the three different specs. And finally, last night on Wednesday my time, Kelley Blue Book, that's the car valuation group in the US, KBB named Tesla as the top luxury car brand. The California-based EV maker also took home titles for Best Value, Most Refined, Best Performance, Best Car Styling in the luxury category. And only the most trusted brand went to a different car company. That was Lexus, by the way, that won that. The other car companies have had it all their own way on the KBB Awards. And in fairness, when I do follow their Twitter, and their Twitter feed may be done by, someone on the brand who doesn't quite buy into EVs. When I follow Kelly Blue Book on Twitter, they haven't always been the most enthusiastic about Tesla. EVs they are, but I've always been Tesla's biggest fan. And that's fine, by the way. I always wondered if there was an agenda there. Like, were they, they funded by the car makers, of course, so you've got to look at vested interests, but in their awards this year, they've given them all to EVs. By the way, the people who have ordered the Cybertruck might be upset to hear that the Best Truck award was given to Toyota. But then again, the Cybertruck doesn't exist. I think there's two of them in the world. So why would you give an award to a thing that you can't get yet? I remember going to an awards thing a year ago. It was in January last year. It was the What Car Awards last year. Was it the what? Yeah, it was the What Car Awards. And I think it was January last year. It's very nice. Very swanky hotel. That was a nice meal. Glass of wine. Nice chat with lovely people. And then at the end of the night, the Car of the Year was awarded. And it was the Kia e-Niro, which is a good thing than EV1. But the Kia e-Niro had a 12-month waiting list. So they gave the Car of the Year to a car you couldn't actually buy that year. But thank you for the invite, by the way, and the free food. I'm aware that I've somewhat just criticised a thing, but gave me a very nice night out. It's always a lovely event, by the way. Let's talk about the Porsche Taycan. We finished with Tesla news. Holy moly. What are we? 17 minutes into the podcast. There you go. That's your Octuple of Tesla news. I'm feeling giddy today, and I'm sorry about that. It's because the sun's out. The Porsche Taycan has been named as the winner in the World Luxury Car and World Performance Car categories at the 2020 World Car Awards. In the awards, the Porsche Taycan was chosen from an initial entry list of 8 cars from all around the world. A short list of 3 finalists were announced back at the beginning of last month in March. The competition in the categories was pretty tough, as you can imagine. Mercedes-Benz EQC was in there as well. Vehicles were selected and voted on by an international jury of 86 automotive journalists from 24 countries around the world. And the Porsche Taycan is the winner. World Luxury Car and World Performance Car winner. And what about the Kia Soul EV? Well, that was chosen as the World Urban Car. A short list of 3, which also included the Mini Electric, very nice car, but the Kia Soul EV won out. It was chosen by the jury for its impressive range, compact body, bold design, high levels of practicality, and I'd agree on all of those. The Kia Soul EV, I think, flies under the radar a little bit because the other cars coming out of South Korea, obviously the Nero and the Kona as well, they get more attention. But actually, although it's an acquired taste, the look of the car, the styling, same technology in the Soul. And so, yeah, you can have your 64 kilowatt hour battery pack and your crazy range. Your 39.2 kilowatt hour battery pack as well, but don't buy that one. Buy the big battery. You'll thank me for it in the end. EV charging is going zero emission, and EV charging is going off-grid. And that is the finding of a new report by idtechx.com. First, zero emissions microgrids that are off-grid, being islanded is the phrase they use, are going to be the future, they say. These kind of microgrids that can be off-grid are going to be charging electric vehicles, and that is going to be... It's not going to be happening tomorrow, but it is on the cards, they say, and it's going to be the future of how we charge our electric vehicles. The second big development is land and marine vehicles and aircraft progressing to being what they define as energy-independent electric vehicles, EIEVs. Another large emerging market over the next 10 years are going to be these energy-independent EVs. Well, both things help each other, they say. Firstly, cars getting their electricity from things like solar bodywork will be a thing, but also easy to charge using things like solar charging stations. And I'm not fully convinced on putting solar panels on cars, but Things like solar charging stations, well, that does make sense to my tiny brain. Things like ocean-going vessels with ocean wave power, tidal power in river and sea areas. You can now use those to charge the very boats and the ships that are on the water, even the ones that are on the sea floor, like mining vehicles. You can use wave power to charge those vehicles so that they are energy-independent electric vehicles. Very good, very interesting report. If you'd like to download your copy of it, you can do. I'll pop a link in the show notes. It's only $5,500. Let's talk about the Volvo S90. It loses the petrol and diesel engines from its lineup as of today. Volvo has just restructured their lineup for the S90. Nice car, big saloon car actually. And they've just removed the petrol and diesel versions completely from being on sale. The S90 is now only available with the plug-in hybrid powertrain. You can get it in the sporty R design or the comfort-based inscription trim levels. Prices start at £55,000 up to £56,000. Says Luke at Auto Express, the Volvo S90's powertrain is a 2-litre, 300 horsepower, 4-cylinder petrol engine and an 86 horsepower motor on the rear axle to get the all-wheel drive that you need. Battery pack it's a tiddler. It's 11.6 kilowatt hours. You can do 0 to 60 in 5.1 seconds. You'll do 35 miles on electric power alone. And it's another really, really compelling plug-in hybrid car. And I was talking to someone today on a new project that we are working on. Actually, a new visual podcast that we're working on. And they want to talk about plug-in hybrid cars. And I'm well up for that because I get both arguments. Both that they are a gateway into people who aren't ready for full EV yet, but they want some sort of electrification, or they are the worst of both worlds. A tiny battery that's still quite heavy, and all of the combustion stuff that's really expensive to service when it starts to go wrong. So what do you think? I see both sides of the argument. Let's talk about charging, and Ionity, which is the European charging network, is expanding with the motorway service network group Extra MSA. They've expanded with 6 new charging stations in a location on the M1 motorway, just east of Leeds, junction 45. All new charging stations are 350 kilowatt. I know, hubba, right? 350 kilowatt high-powered chargers. And the Ionity chargers can charge a vehicle if you get one that can take a charge anywhere near that in 20 minutes. Literally park up, plug in, run to the loo, get a coffee, get back to the car, go! And your car's full. Leeds Skelton Lake is the 4th station that Ionity has opened up here in the UK. 7 others are planned to follow very soon in 2020, and each of them are going to have these really fast, high-powered chargers, and that is awesome charging news. Whereas in the USA, Electrify America, more charging news from networks that are putting in high-powered chargers, have done a deal with Kia. So if you're a Kia Niro EV driver in the USA, there's now a deal with Electrify America. It's a charging program optimized with better pricing. So if you buy a Kia Niro EV, you get a better deal called Kia Select, a flat rate of 35 cents per minute charging for Kia e-Niro drivers, designed for what they say, the unique DC charging characteristics. I wonder what they would be of the Kia e-Niro. Sorry, Niro EV. It's called 2 things in different parts of the world. Brilliant, eh? Why do that? Why do it? It's maddening. Anyway, it's either called the Kia e-Niro or the Niro EV, depending on where you are listening to this here podcast. It also waives session fees and subscription fees as well, if you buy a new one of those and use Electrify America. Finally, Renault is preparing for an SUV next year, an all-electric, small, urban SUV. Going to be presented at the Paris Motor Show in October this year. And it's the first production EV from Renault on the new EV platform that they have called the CMF EV platform. It's an urban SUV which is inspired by a concept car that we saw a while ago now called the Morphos concept car, manufactured in France and on the market next spring 2021, says the website Lagousse. The technical platform is the main element marking the evolution of this little SUV compared to the big seller from Renault, which is the Zoe. Like all new 100% electric Renaults going forward, this little SUV, which isn't a big car, but it is, it's taller and it's got those kind of SUV crossover styling elements based on this new platform, which is made for the purpose of making pure EVs, unlike the Renault Zoe. It's a new platform, and they're not going to be using the Zoe platform for any more EVs. The Zoe will be around, by the way, until, I did find out, 2024. It's scheduled to run until this latest one that was launched in January. The new EV platform from Renault, the CMF platform, is what they'll build all future cars on, and it is only going to be used for EVs. So very much the VW way of doing things. The BMW way is to have a car that you can either put in an EV or a plug-in or a full fossil gobbler, and that is their philosophy, and that's how they're making their factories, that you can have one car, multiple powertrains. Renault going the way of VW, which is to say we have a platform and you only build EVs on that. Different ways of doing it. We'll see who's right. Then maybe they're both right. That was the news today. Thank you for sticking around. Long podcast today. We are talking question of the week this week. If your car is parked up, and what state are you leaving it in, as in state of charge, and how are you leaving it parked up? Are you leaving it plugged in? Are you leaving it the battery full? Mine is the Renault Zoe. Oops. Not meant to. At 100%. I got some advice sent to me today from the Kia press office, which is kiapressoffice.com, by the way. It's a one-liner. For EV and plug-in hybrid vehicles, it is recommended that the high-voltage battery is left in a fully charged state and plugged in, by the way. That's their official guidance. That's what they recommend. It doesn't say they recommend it because it's the best thing for the battery, but that's what they recommend. So we'll see. Let me know your thoughts, and I'll read them out on Sunday's show as part of Question of the Week. Email me hello@evnewsdaily.com or leave a comment on the YouTube show. Well, thank you to 239 patrons of the podcast. This show happens because of your generosity. I'll make the show if you're not a supporter, but if you want to have a look, Patreon is patreon.com/evnewsdaily. Premium partners are Phil Roberts of Electric Future, was excited about those new high-powered chargers from my Ionity, by the way, in Leeds. Brad Crosby, Avid Technology, Brightsmith Group for Clean Tech Talent, Porsche of the Village Cincinnati, and Audi of Cincinnati East. If you can leave a little review on Apple Podcasts, it helps grow the show. Have a wonderful day. I'll catch you tomorrow. And remember, there is no such thing as a self-charging hybrid.